like, I'm not sure how it's going to play out for Harry Arter in the long term, even in terms of the wider perception. Sometimes the guy who's not there, it's very result orientated. If Ireland go badly in Wales on Thursday, and with losing McClean and so on, then it's quite likely that after the game will be, well, I mean, this is a joke. Harry Arter's not here.
Yeah.
Why isn't Harry Arter here? Right, and he becomes a better player in response to that situation. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it had gone the other way, and maybe if Ireland had a stronger team and they'd gone and won, then Harry Arter's there'll be an element of, well, screw you.
Yeah.
Because the Irish team is short bodies this week, big time. They're struggling for a game that matters. And a player that's fully fit who's decided he doesn't want to come along because of a grievance with the assistant manager, I'm just not sure if is he judging the mood right in terms of the sympathy that might exist, unless and the big but here, I mean, if he comes out and articulates what happened in a very clear manner, and then people can consider it and they can take what he says and then they will form their opinion accordingly. But there's a bit of grey there at the moment.
Yeah, there is.
And Martin O'Neill very strongly drawing even a distinction between, well, John Walters had a row and he's here. John Walters had a row at Roy Keane, and I think the subject matter was similar enough in terms of how it started anyway. So he hasn't had a problem. He's showed up to serve his country, to serve his international team, and Harry Arter hasn't done that, and you can't be seen to be picking and choosing your game. So, just in terms of even the rest of the group, maybe the rest of the group feel actually Harry has a really strong case. I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but the silence, to me, risks becoming a bit more damaging to Arter over time.
It's hard to know what you do if you're Arter. Like, do you come out and create a complete shitstorm now this week?
But he's done that already.
But I mean, does he come out and actually say, Roy Keane said this to me? And create just a massive issue and headlines all over the UK, and obviously here would go absolutely nuts? Or does he think to himself, look, I mean, again, it depends what happens. But
he's created a shitstorm 3 days before a game.
Sure,
but if this was in his mind from July,
well, maybe,
then it happens. Then I know O'Neill only spoke about the recently. This is, again, the timing aspect is interesting. If he says, even in June or July, well, I've decided to, now maybe he was having a discussion with O'Neill and he thought he might get some kind of guarantees or some kind of apology.
Maybe he's looking for an apology.
Like that. That's possibly what might be going on. But just coming into a big week where there's a lot of stuff going on, he's not daft. I think he probably knew that this was going to be a big story.
Yeah, there's no James McCarthy, there's no Robbie Brady, there's no Shane Long, there's no Sean Maguire, no Scott Hogan, and we obviously have no Declan Rice, and there's no Harry Arter, and Daryl Murphy's retired, John O'Shea's retired, Wes Hoolan's retired. So we are light, and then you throw in James McClean. O'Neill's suggesting that he wants to get his club career back on track, and his club career is back on track is the thing. He's been playing for Cardiff, and the thought of him going to bed probably about 10 miles down the road from the Cardiff City Stadium. He literally plays in the city where this is happening. I know, it's in the stadium. So the thought that he's going to be going to bed 10 miles down the road while this reasonably important competitive game is happening would suggest this was serious. Now, I don't think, Harry Arter is not a fella immune to arguments. And there's various bits and pieces, he's feisty, and he's been feisty on the pitch, and he's not afraid to have a war of words with people on a pitch and then shake hands afterwards. So, he's not somehow unable to handle the cut and thrust of professional football and arguments. I'd say this is not the first argument Harry Arter has been in his career.
He's gone on loan from his. I'm not saying there's any argument behind it at all, but I mean, he signed a long enough term deal at Bournemouth, and then barely didn't play for a period of time. And I know he said he had discussions with his manager about his future there. So he's been involved in a sort of it's been a turbulent enough time in his football career. But
my point is, no more than Johnny Walters, who's had arguments even with Roy Keane before, let alone other people, no more than Walters, Arter's been involved in scrapes before. Like O'Neill said, look, these things happen. I mean, on the one hand, he said, they happen all the time, it's normal. And then he said, we've had about 5 of these in 5 years. So I'm not sure, do they happen all the time or are they very rare? But for the sake of the argument, they do happen in football quite clearly. And yet Arter has deemed this serious enough now to jeopardise his international future. O'Neill may never have him back. That is a distinct possibility.
I think it's a strong chance.
Yeah. So that suggests it was very serious. And again, a bit like the Rice thing, we're just going to have to wait a little bit and see what comes out. But if Arthur comes out and says, this is what happened, and Roy said X to me, and X is really bad, then that is going to put the O'Neill-Keane management on the back foot in a big way.
Well, as O'Neill said yesterday, and he strongly backed Roy Keane. I was in the sort of the chat with the papers yesterday, and they were the headlines today. O'Neill, I back Keane.
Yeah.
And he's very much aligning himself with Keane. And I watched all of O'Neill's press stuff yesterday, and I felt in the camera sort of TV radio section, small bit more conciliatory towards Arthur about the door being open and going more into the club stuff,
But with you in the papers?
I just think as it went on, there was an element of actually, picking and choosing your games, and a couple of key lines. I mean, I've heard the sides of the story. He said I've heard the sides of the story. Right. So Keane has told him what happened. Harry Arthur, he's met him last week and he told him what happened. And O'Neill wanted him to come in and feels that he should still be here ultimately. So I'm thinking that O'Neill, if he'd heard something extremely serious, would he have adopted that stance? I mean, if he has, then he's just aligned himself to Keane come what may. Yeah. And I guess there's an element of they've gone so far down the road together anyway that you're going to stick with your man in that respect. But I mean, Arthur probably does need to speak at some stage.
It's a fair point that you make. I would suspect if it was really dreadful what was said, then maybe O'Neill would have sided with Arthur a bit more, or would have just said, look, Roy, go and apologise to him.
Yeah, and would it have taken this long for it to come out in the wash as such? So,
Eamon Dunphy today. In my opinion, Keane needs to be shown the door. Where Dunphy is in this. He says if O'Neill won't make that call, then the FAI should make it for him. So it has provoked a little bit of a debate. I saw there was a vote on the
I missed that, Joe.
There was a vote on the independent website about do you want Keane to stay on or not to stay on, and so it's provoked that kind of a discussion. I don't know. It doesn't sound, to round this off, because I want to play some O'Neill talking about the game, it doesn't sound like yesterday's press conference felt to you like Martin O'Neill massively on the back foot and this a big scandal.
And the one thing I should say as well is that I've never been hugely convinced that O'Neill and Keane are hugely convinced by Arthur as a player as well. And that was made clear as well. I mean, O'Neill said Rice would have started on Thursday, no doubt. Would Arthur have started? And okay, maybe with the players that are out, he might well have. But I don't think he's a first name on the team sheet mentioned. Like, he was dropped last year. He struggled in the playoff. He came back and did very well in Wales, and he's done well at certain times. I'm just saying that, you've always sensed that they've been a bit exasperated by, in fact, several of Ireland's midfield players. And I'm not sure if they've ever been hugely sold on Arthur 100%. So that did come across a small bit as well. I think I don't know for sure if Martin O'Neill would fully believe that going into the autumn campaign without Harry Arthur is like a massive crisis. When it may well be that he's got Robbie Brady and James McCarthy back next month. In the context of this week's squad, it looks pretty bad not to have them involved. But I'm not sure across the cycle if they've ever really been fully on board with Arthur as a number one starting option that will be there come what may.
Yeah, I'd share that sense. So just a few other quotes from O'Neill yesterday, because obviously most of the stuff we played last night was to do with the Rice situation and the Harry Arthur situation. He was asked at one point, O'Neill, he's going to put to him, and I think this is he did a whole host of radio interviews and print interviews in the last couple of weeks, starting with yourself actually in Brazil, almost to try and draw a line with the past, and this is a new era and everything. And yet he was asked, Denmark in Dublin was the last competitive game that we've played, so is there any lingering sense of now having to put things right because we're back in our first competitive game since November?
You know what? I don't think that when we set out in the World Cup qualifying game in Belgrade, I don't think for 1 minute that we considered how well we had done in France. I don't think the lads. It was a clean sheet again, slate clean, and you start again. So you go on with this. So the game that we played against Denmark is, as you said, November time. What we're trying to do in between times is maybe get some fresh blood in, some younger players. As it turns out, we've picked up a couple of injuries to players. Young Maguire, he looked as if he was shaping up quite nicely. But then again, I wouldn't want to be starting to put a lot of pressure on some young lads who wouldn't have played more than 3 times for us. So, not at all. The whole point is that we are starting afresh again. We're going for it. And the irony is that we're in against Denmark, who beat us, and Wales that we beat. So it's, Wales might turn around and think that they've got a point to prove against us. But eventually, if that's a motivation in itself, I haven't a problem with it.
Yeah, I guess you use whatever you can. Seamus Coleman, I mean, I hadn't really given this much thought, but obviously he broke his leg against Wales in Dublin. So he's back now and he's playing, and O'Neill was asked about this, look, he's back from his break and he broke it against Wales. Has he played it, as the line to O'Neill was, has Coleman played enough competitive football now to treat this as just another game?
Well, I don't think Seamus ever played for the Republic of Ireland, felt it was just another game. But no, he's played plenty of competitive football now. I thought that when he played at the end of the summertime, he was just coming back into some sort of fitness. He'd played a few games for Everton, and but he's much fitter now. He's getting up and down the pitch, and he looks miles fitter than he was at the back end of last season, and naturally so. He's got pre-season, and Seamus he's a brilliant trainer anyway. I think everybody at club level would vouch for that. But no, I think he's much fitter, much fitter than he was in the summertime.
No psychological.
No, I don't. No. Seamus has got over that. Absolutely, yeah. He's definitely got over that, and no, he's raring to go. I think he's just wanting to make up for lost time, and if he stays clear of another serious injury, who knows what will happen for the next couple of years in his career.
Yeah. It is fantastic the way Coleman's come back, isn't it, when you think about the doomsday scenarios we were looking at?
But it's funny that when you say that, okay, and there's a lot of other stuff going on and you get caught up in the bubble, but it wouldn't even cross my mind as much now about Coleman being a concern, or is he worried now? I guess, it is January. I was lucky enough to be at his comeback game. I think it was the game he played against Leicester. It was the last day. And even that day, you're like, God, he's back. Right. In terms of the thundering runs. And I think, in fairness, and O'Neill has alluded to it in recent weeks, that he probably wasn't at his sharpest or fittest when he played for Ireland in the end of season games and the game in March. And I guess he wasn't, he was still probably 80% Seamus Coleman. But he appears to have started the season reasonably well at Everton. He's had a full pre-season. He hasn't had interruptions. Like we've got, James McCarthy's ahead of schedule, but even Robbie Brady coming back from a knee injury, a bit different. But he's met setbacks. He's actually not out with that. He's picked up an ankle along the way, a hamstring injury. Like Coleman, he got back, and since he's got back, it's been okay. He had one little layoff, which I think is natural. I think he picked up a knock at one point, but it's been smooth enough. Yeah. And he is an asset. The fact that Neil Taylor, the player who broke his leg, isn't in the Wales squad, probably, and so he's not going to be on the pitch, it probably takes away a bit of that angle. And I think, as I said, there's other stuff going on. Like Seamus Coleman will possibly speak at the press conference tomorrow, more than likely. He's the captain. You see, Robbie Keane would come out in these situations when there's stuff going on with the other ring players and be very strong. And we'll have to see how Coleman handles it, because diplomatically his words carry a certain amount of weight. And he was hugely complimentary of Rice during the summer, and it's a tough one for him maybe to be in that situation. But as a player, when we're looking at our squad now, and you're thinking, where's the inspiration coming from? And he is a name that sort of jumps in. He's a right back. There's only so much a right back can do, but at least that is one area where we look at ourselves versus the Welsh and think, I think we're happy with what we've got there.
Yeah. So we've got 2-3 minutes here. Wales have a pretty strong squad.
They do.
I have to say, Ashley Williams is in it, Joe Allen is in it, Ramsey is in it, Gareth Bale is in it.
I wouldn't be naming Ashley Williams first now in recent form, to be fair.
Just going through it chronologically from goalkeeper out. Gareth Bale's a very good player, Dan.
Bale's got a chance,
he's a very good player. What are you expecting? Because, it was like by the skin of our teeth and some heroic last-ditch defending, and Shane Duffy was a man mountain, and it was a 1-0 smash and grab, and a fella called James McClean scored the goal. So
Joe Allen got clotheslined, didn't he?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see Ireland actually coming away with much here.
It's really hard now. They are serious underdogs, and I think if Ireland had everyone there, I wouldn't even have that approach to this game, as much as Wales have Bale and they have Ramsey, and they have that good link up between Allen and we saw John Hartson. There's some very good young players coming through, including Ethan Ampadu, who could have played for Ireland as well, one that we were in for. So I mean, I was looking at a piece for tomorrow's Indo and trying to figure out like who even might play in terms of sort of midfield positions and attacking positions, and like losing McClean is such a blow that you think, okay, we're not going to have a lot of the ball, right? So that's fair enough. We have Johnny Walters who will play, who can hold the ball up, but so where's the counter attack play coming from? You know, where's that break for that goal that we scored last year in Vienna or in Cardiff?
Yeah.
You lose McClean, so you're looking to guys like Daryl Horgan maybe, or Alan Judge, Graham Burke even, guys who've played next to no international football, to suddenly step up and, you know, assume the level of confidence that McClean has in games of this. And it's a new manager at Wales. You'd imagine there's going to be a good atmosphere, a bit of a freshness about what they do. So, I mean, thankfully we're strong in defence. We've no one really missing from our defensive area, and we've Darren Randolph, and we're going to need them. That's basically the short answer. We're going to need them all.
We've the game live, by the way, on Thursday if you can't make it to a TV. And tomorrow's football show is going to come from the back page. It's a special show. Kev's going to be there with Mark Lawrenson and Ronnie Whelan, and that will go out between 9 and 10. Congratulations to Dave Douglas, who's won a pair of tickets to come along to the show. Ronnie Whelan started at
Home Farm.
Nicely done. And Dave knew that as well. So it's an exclusive night, and that will be played out on the football show as well, so you won't miss a thing. Up next, we're going to check in. Like, this Denmark thing seems to be going nowhere, so we'll check in and see if they really are going to put a bunch of futsal players out tomorrow against Slovakia, and presumably they'll have this sorted out by the Welsh game, but we're not so sure. We'll talk about that next.
Do you want to say hi to the Air Sport viewers there at home?
No. Give me traditional sugar-coated jam donuts any day of the week. Taxi man from the airport, Drumcondra, pull in, bosh, straight into the Thunder's selection of jam donuts and, you know, the big French fancy, not the typical standard French.
I know what you're saying,
I'm talking gigantic portions.
You're happy with your pizza?
Yeah. So, was that chilli, Kev?
There's a bit of chilli on your pizza, Kenny.
Apart from the chilli,
Kenny didn't like it too spicy.
The environment, the ambience is not right. We've got to get back up the Gibneys again.
Where is Billericay?
If you get to Billericay High Street, do it right, and you're literally there. I'm going to throw in the Serengeti, and I don't know exactly where it was, possibly in that bit. Heard of Wildebeest, yeah? So as I'm driving, suddenly me seat is reclining backwards. Gaz is reclining the seat, like pinning me back, you know, pulling me back slowly, almost like in a vertical position, staring up the sunroof at the stars.
This is an all-time low.
All-time low. Had to put the brakes on, throw him out of the car. It was ridiculous. And he can't keep humiliating Kevin like this in the studio.
Just a little. Come on, there's
no need to argue anymore. That's a great song. That's a great album.
What secondary school did Brian attend?
Oh, private. They didn't ship you out today. They didn't ship you to the south side for a better education. Me and you are finished. If you jumped on a bus and went down the coast road and out to the south of Dublin for education, come on. I don't know. I'll just go with Clontarf. Yeah. This is awful stuff. This is desperate. Turn this thing off.
Football on Off the Ball. In association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app for exclusive price enhancements on the biggest games around. Download it now. Boyle Sports. Time to play. The Pat Kenny Show.
On tomorrow's programme, as well as all the breaking news, more developments in the presidential race. New chemical experiments that could help with depression, and love is blind, but when is the right time to move in together?
The Pat Kenny Show. With MasterCard.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk.
Did you know that if you supply new or used cars or light commercial vehicles to drivers in the Republic of Ireland, you have a legal obligation under end-of-life vehicle regulations? That's where Elves can help by providing you with the most cost-effective option to ensure you're compliant. Visit elves.ie for your 2018 motor dealer application form. Elves. Driving car recycling forward.
€2,000 cashback if you switch your mortgage.
I'll think about it.
Legal fees covered.
Just let me compare that.
2% cashback.
But will I be better off in the long run?
At CCPC, we provide impartial and accurate information so you can make better choices about products and services. Thinking of switching your mortgage? We've done some of the hard work for you. Use our comparison tool to see if you could save on your mortgage. ccpc.ie, independent information for consumers. From the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
€4,000 cashback?
At Expert Electrical, we're always bringing you the latest appliances and technology. For this week only, trade in your old appliance and we'll give you up to €150 off when you purchase any Belling appliance, including fridges, cookers and dishwashers. With 67 stores nationwide, there's a local expert near you. Find yours at expert.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Air France.
La France.
is in the air. With our new Oh La La deals, you don't just have to imagine. You can land in Johannesburg and set off on safari, dance samba in Brazil, or discover Tokyo's tea houses. Oh la la, c'est magnifique! You can afford to let your imagination fly far, far away.
Air France. France.
La France
is in the air.
Book your flights via Paris from Dublin or Cork by Thursday, 13th of September at airfrance.ie.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome back. So we're turning to this situation involving Denmark, which has captured everybody's imagination, not least us, given that they're in the same Nations League group as us. Denmark have named a second-string squad, including some futsal players, for tomorrow's friendly against Slovakia and for their Nations League match against Wales on Sunday. It seems to be a real mess. And for more, we've got Morten Crone of BT on the line. Thanks for joining us, Morten.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
So, as is often the case with these things, this comes down to money.
This is an ongoing case. Since 5-6 years back, the Danish Football Players Union has been in conflict with the Danish FA and the division, the club division clubs. Right now it's between the players and the Danish FA. They're trying to negotiate the conditions. How much money will they get for playing a game? And first of all, who has the commercial rights to the players while they are playing for the Denmark national team? That's actually the most important thing here. For example, the Danish national team has Danske Spil, which is the Danish national bookmakers. That's their sponsors, but many players are also associated with their own sponsor, with their own bookmakers. Can they work for them while they are with the Danish national team, or can they not? That's like one of the two big things. The other one is, what does it mean that they are with the Danish national team? Does that mean that the national team will have to? Are they there? Do they have to pay their assurances and so on? Many of the things, that are going on between employers and employees.
Okay, and so how has it reached such a difficult point? Because I'm sure these issues crop up for every international side, and there are always bones of contention. How has it become so serious?
Oh, since many years back, there's been these conflicts with the Players Union, that it's very strong in Denmark. They have a very strong CEO, Mads Øland, who's done many good things for the Danish players, not only on top level but also a little down in the rows. They have good rights in Denmark, but they have also become that strong that they are claiming their rights within all corners of football in Denmark. They want money. They want they want the commercial rights. They want to be assurance. There are so many aspects in this.
Okay.
And then also there are also some personal problems between the negotiators on both sides.
So Denmark have had the Danish Football Association have had to name a squad for these two games, the friendly and then the Welsh game. Who's in that squad currently?
Can't tell you because I don't know the names. I only know the national coach. That is John Jensen. You might know him from Arsenal, and he scored the 2-0 winner against Germany in the 1992 final for Denmark when we won the European Championships. His assistant manager is the brother of the head coach from a Danish Super League club. Hasse Kuhn is his name, but the rest of the players, they're totally unknown. They have been talents before, but right now they are playing in the not in the first or the second division, but in the third, fourth, and fifth division.
Okay. The most sensible line I saw from anybody thus far was Christian Eriksen. Obviously, everybody familiar with him. We're especially familiar with him after his visit to Dublin last November, I can tell you. But he said, let's suspend all negotiations. Let's just go with the current deal until we get these two matches out of the way. And that seemed like a very sensible situation. I know negotiations broke down on Monday. Surely surely this will not come to a point where tomorrow, and certainly in a competitive game against Wales, you'll have a bunch of people nobody's ever heard of representing Denmark. Surely that will not happen here.
Well, we don't know what will happen now. 1 year ago, they cancelled a European qualifier between Denmark and Sweden for the women's team.
Yeah.
So why not? It could happen again, and there was another chapter, an earlier chapter, can you say, of the same conflict, because it's basically the same things they're negotiating about.
As for the public, do we know which side they're coming down on? Because I presume in the eyes of the general public, the sporting public in Denmark, they'll be looking at this well-paid bunch of professionals and they'll be thinking, well, it's an honour to play for your country and you should suck it up and you should do it for free, let alone be looking to make any commercial money out of it. Or, you know, is there a sense that the Danish Federation are being too harsh here? Is it splitting the country?
It's split. Actually, when you see the pulse on the website, you will often see that the players are the most popular. But I think it's very hard to say. I think it's very hard to say who's on what side, and I actually think it all comes down to that normal people don't understand what this is all about. Of course, it's easy to say that the players, they earn so much money that they should just play and it should be an honor to play in the national team. But also, the unions in Denmark are pretty strong. So many people think that the players should also have their rights, and that the Danish FA, they should just pay the players, and that they, excuse me, my words, fucked up so many times that this is just another fuck up from the Danish FA. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to actually say what the Danish people means, but definitely everybody thinks this is a farce and it's all crazy.
Okay, I read as well that travelling conditions are a bit of an issue. Is that something that the players aren't happy with?
Travel conditions.
Yeah, I presume by that I like the logistics and the seats and the plane.
For the players.
Yeah. I read that they weren't delighted with that situation either.
I haven't heard about that, okay. But I know that they left from a very tiny airport with a private jet, and that they were that nobody could get near the airplane or the airport. So it's been very secret, everything here, and the Danish FA say that they protect the players because, of course, when you break out of, it's not a strike, but out of this conflict and say that we will play even though our colleagues have said that they won't play, then they could be in trouble. I don't think they'll get physically attacked, but it's definitely not funny to get back to your colleagues and tell them that they broke this strike.
Yeah. And are the first team players, Eriksson and all the crew, are they together somewhere at the moment?
I'm not sure where they are right now, but last night they were gathered in Copenhagen in a hotel, probably discussing what was going on and what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. So where they are right now, I don't know, but probably they are in Copenhagen or somewhere else in Denmark with their families.
Mm. And this group of players, the futsal players, have been called up to the squad?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them are futsal players. Some are from the normal football leagues, but from the 3rd, 4th and 5th division. Okay. You won't know the names. I know one of the names, that is Daniel Holm, who played in the Brøndby talent squad some years ago. The other players, don't know them.
Okay. I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting if they go up against Wales on Sunday.
Isn't it? Yeah, they'll lose hardly.
Yeah.
Well, this is not a team. It's worse than San Marino. They're not able to play a national match on a decent level.
No, I wouldn't think so. Okay, so big 24 hours coming up, or maybe they send out the dud team in the friendly because that's not such a big deal. But I mean, I just can't believe if the players are saying they're willing to have a truce and to play the game and then resume negotiations after these two games, then I think it would be very unreasonable for the Danish Football Association not to agree something similar.
don't know. I think it's hard to talk about fairness here because I'm not sure who's right. But I know that actually the Danish, normally you would support the players and the union's rights and all this. But this time they have to find a solution because it's just going on and on. I was reading some of my old columns just before this, and I was writing the same last year and 4 years ago that I would write tonight if I was sitting with my computer.
Okay.
So this is just going on and on. They have to find a solution about the commercial rights and about who's the are they a normal employee? Are they in a normal employer-employee relationship, or are the real employers? Is that the clubs? And is the FA just somewhere you come once in a while and play? Because you should be proud of that.
Okay.
It's a very hard discussion.
Yeah. But, well, I presume it is difficult. But a last question on all this is, why don't they just do what best practice is around the world? Why don't they just find out what happens with commercial rights with every other player group and football association and do something very similar? Why is Denmark so special here?
It's a very good question, but I think the Danish Players Union is very strong, and it has become very strong over the years because this the CEO now, he was the chairman earlier, Mads Øland. He's very strong, very intelligent, but he's been in the game for so long time, and it's he's claiming so many rights that it's almost not. I think it's too much, and many people think that's too much.
Okay, so the players' union is looking for more than other players might get with other football associations.
Yes, and still the players are not as big as, let's say Neymar. When I was in Brazil 2014, he was all over the place. He was doing sponsor things for everybody. The Brazil Federation couldn't say no to him. In Denmark, players are not that big, so they can say no to some players, to players to some degree, and I think it's very hard. It's very hard to explain and understand why it is like this.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens with great interest. Morten Crone, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
TVs have just arrived at appliancesdelivered.ie. Great, says you. What's in it for me? Well, how about a 32-inch